Jenny at the Orcas Public Library again, and I have a couple more books for you this week. And this is one that I actually really loved reading when I actually had story time in-house. It's called The Perfect Nest, and it's written by Catherine Friend. That's a pretty good name, isn't it? Catherine Friend. And it's illustrated by John Manders. And if you look at it, you see some animals in there. What's that one? You know what that one is right there? Looks like this one's making a perfect nest. Would you go in that nest if you were this little chicken? I don't know. Let's see. Let's find out. Oh, and here's another picture right here. There's our chicken again. And there. The arrows tell us we need to maybe go inside there, because what's going to be in there? A perfect nest. And we need to also thank Candlewick Press for allowing us to read this in quarantine. Yes, and we can say it. Maybe you want to say it. Can you say it? Okay. I think I heard it. Thank you for letting us read it. Yes. Okay, but let's start the story. Here we go. Jack, the cat, gathered together everything he needed and then built the perfect nest, dry and cozy and just the right size. All those things he's added. But the nest was not for Jack. With this perfect nest, he would attract a perfect chicken who would lay a perfect egg, which would make a perfect omelet for a cat like Jack. And soon enough, a chicken came along. Caramba, she cried, a perfect nest. So she hopped up and laid a small egg. Then a duck waddled by. Sacre bleu, she cried, the perfect nest. The duck pushed the chicken out, hopped up and laid a medium-sized egg. Then a goose lumbered by. Great balls of fire, she cried, a perfect nest. The goose pushed the duck out, hopped up and laid a large egg. Jack's mouth began to water. 3 eggs would make 3 omelets. But then the duck leapt onto the goose's back. "Sie ist me nest." The chicken flew up onto the duck. "No, this is my nest." The 3 cackled and quacked and honked, but each refused to leave the perfect nest. They squished each other for days. Each day, Jack tried to get the birds off the eggs. "Fire, fire," he cried. They didn't move. "Flood, flood," he cried. They didn't move. "Wolf, wolf," he cried. But the chicken, the duck, and the goose would not move. Finally, Jack stood before them. "You birds are so silly. The next farm over has an even better nest, and it's empty. Why doesn't one of you use that nest?" "An empty nest?" cried the chicken. "Without a goose to sit on my head? Caramba!" "Sacre bleu!" cried the duck. "I I'm tired of smelling the chicken. That nest is mine. Great balls of fire, cried the goose. Out of my way. And they all flapped away. Alone at last, Jack returned to the nest and peeked inside. He arranged the eggs neatly in a row, small breakfast, medium lunch, and large dinner. Jack's stomach rumbled. But then, you see something happening there? Crack! The small egg broke open and out popped a wet baby chick, who looked up at Jack and said, "Caramba! Hola, mama!" Crickety snap! The medium-sized egg broke open and out scrambled a wet baby duck, who looked up at Jack and said, "Sacré bleu! Bonjour, mama!" Crackety, crackety, boom! The largest egg broke open and out stepped a wet baby goose, who looked up at Jack and said, "Great balls of fire! Howdy, Ma!" Jack stared at the babies. What was he to do? He couldn't make omelets out of them. Dry me, cried the soggy baby chick. Feed me, cried his hungry baby duck. Play, cried the excited baby goose. Jack hid in the barn. The three babies found him. He hid in the woods, and the three babies found him. Jack hid under his tractor. And guess what? Yes, you got it. The three babies found him and dragged him back to the nest. Sleep, 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 the tired babies finally whimpered. Cold, 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 said the shivering babies, and Jack scratched his head. Someone had to care for these babies, but there was no one else around. And Jack lifted all three babies into the nest. Buenas noches, mama, said the baby chick. Bonne nuit, mama, said the baby duck. Sweet dreams, ma, said the baby goose. And then Jack climbed into the nest, and the babies fell fast asleep. And that's when he realized that this really was the perfect nest. Yes, I like that. That was a good one. Yes. And then in the back it says, whoops, you just passed the perfect nest. What do you think would happen if they all came back? Would they all come back and want to sleep in the nest too with Jack? I don't know. That would be a pretty busy nest, I think. And I've got another one called Tom's Tweet, which is a little bit similar, and it's written by Jill Esbaum, and it's illustrated by Dan Santat, who I think is a really great illustrator. And this book is actually published by Alfred A. Knopf, so we'll thank them for letting us read it in quarantine. While hunting one morning right after a storm, Tom heard an inquisitive tweet. And there to his left, in the rain-dewy grass, was a flip-flapping, fluttery treat. Tom feasted his eyes on the quivering tot. Hello, breakfast, he said with a grin. He opened his choppers to gobble it down, but the thing was so wretchedly thin. "Oh, dad, burn it," said Tom. "You're too skinny to eat. Why, you're nothing but feather and bone." And he started to leave, but the shivering Tweet looked so frightened, unhappy, and alone. "I will not take you back to your nest," Tom declared. But the thing blinked, and egad, Tom was half up the tree with the poor little tyke when his mamma showed up, frightening, mad. Tom mumbled and mumbled, but he couldn't explain. With the Tweet in his kisser like that, Mama Tweet didn't care. She was too busy pecking. And anyway, birds don't speak cat. Tom ran with the Tweet through the garden and yard in an awkward, undignified crouch. He scooted past peonies and pansies, petunias, and squeezed through the rose bushes. Ouch! And the baby Tweet's black button eye blinked as it swayed on its wee little feet. "Cons darn it," Tom grumbled. "Now what do I do? Just my luck to get stuck with the Tweet." "Tweet!" chirped the baby. "Tweet, tweet, tweet, tweet." Tom scowled at the feathery pest. What was wrong with this thing? What on earth did it want? "Will you quit if I build you a nest?" Tom braved Mama Tweet for a bundle of twigs. She dive-bombed his noggin. Ow, ow, ow! He dropped the Tweet onto the twigs and commanded, "Stop tweeting, be happy right now." The tot settled into the nest, but its cries didn't stop. And why would they unless... "Dag nabbit," Tom muttered. "There's no way around it. I'll just have to feed you, I guess." No. Get that one. Tom scratched and dug in the storm-puddled mud for the juiciest worms he could find. But the Tweet wouldn't eat. It was waiting for something. Tom gasped. "Are you out of your mind?" With his innards in knots, he selected a wiggler and gingerly chewed it to the pulp. Ugh. He passed the mashed worm from his mouth to the baby, who swallowed it gobbly gulp. Ugh. Yuck. Happy at last, the Tweet hopped up on Tom and explored him above and beneath. It tugged on his whiskers and pecked his ears as if gritting his still wormy teeth. Nibble, nibble, nibble. And when the little Tweet yawned and hopped under Tom's armpit, he squirmed away, shaking his head. "No snuggling," he grumbled. "I'm not that kind of cat." But the wee thing ignored what he said. Yes. And Tom sat through the long afternoon with that Tweet wedged in tight, like an unwanted burr. And although he resisted with all of his might, from deep down in his chest came a purr. Finally, Mama flew off to find food for the rest of her tots. "Now's our chance," murmured Tom to his wakening guest, sneaking peeks between marigold pots. "Here you are, little fella," he said. "Home at last. Say hello to your brothers and sisters." "It's feathers," a tremble. The Tweet sadly blinked, first at Tom and then the petrified others. That night, as he slumbered, Tom dreamed of the tweet. Was he nuts? How completely absurd. Yes, as hard as it was for a cat to admit, he was missing that bothersome bird. Next morning, when Tom stepped from under the porch, a quick hop, flutter, plop caught his eye. As he rushed to the tree, he thought, no, couldn't be. But it was. It was the tweet. Oh, my. Oh, no. Tarnation. You have to stay up there, he said. You cannot be my friend. I'm a cat. But that baby just smiled, and Tom saw that this tweet didn't care about details like that. When Mama Tweet saw that old Tom was a softie, her sari was long and ear-splitting. And to prove that she trusted him really and truly, she gave him a job. Tweet sitting. Look at him there. I think that just goes to prove you can't judge a cat by their canines. I think that's fair to say. Same with this, The Perfect Nest. I think those were good books. I hope you like those books. And I hope maybe you even have a cat at home that you'd like to give it some pets and maybe let it sit on your lap a little bit. I don't know. If you do, give Scratch from me. And we will see you next week. We have books here at the library if you want to stop in. We are open Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday from noon till 3. So hopefully we get to see you then, and hopefully you get some books. If not, we'll see you next week for another story or two. And bye-bye.